Hello, all my wonderful aviators. RandomEd787 here. So, I figured today, since there's not really a lot of news going around with Flight Simulator 2024 right now, I figured we'd do a discussion video, and this is something that's kind of been on my mind for a while, but granted, I'm not leaning toward one way or the other really in this video, but it's something I want to discuss and see what some of you guys think. So, for today's video, I thought we discussed if Flight Simulator 2024 is going to release broken. So let's go ahead, jump right into the video, and discuss this. Now first, before we start the video, what do I exactly mean by broken? Because broken can mean a lot when it comes to Flight Simulator, because there's a lot of complex moving parts in this type of a simulator. It's not just like your average game. So I'm not expecting this to be like a Cyberpunk or Assassin's Creed Unity type of launch. Yeah, I'm going way back. How many of you remember that disaster? Or Battlefield 2042. I'm not expecting 2024 to be in that kind of a state. At least I hope not. I mean, you never know with the modern gaming industry these days, so I have some trust issues with all developers, not just Asobo or any other. I don't trust really any of them, and I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way. So let's go into the first and let's talk about Flight Simulator 2020, because as we all know, this game did not really launch in the best state, and I think we can all attest to that. I know I can personally. There were a lot of problems. For example, there were lots of reports of crashes, especially when plugging in USB devices. This was happening for the longest time on the sim. Live weather was completely busted. For me, it didn't work for at least a year, like, properly, and the weather's accurate now, but it took a while for that to really get going. And when it came to updates, they mostly just broke the sim in a lot of cases, while fixing a couple of things, but I feel like sometimes it just added more bugs. I didn't get as heavily affected maybe as others did, but that's what I've heard a lot. It wasn't really until Sim Update 10 that I really noticed that things were starting to change and that the updates weren't really breaking anything, because from what I remember, Sim Update 10 got delayed a few times before they released it, and I think that was the problem with a lot of these updates that Asobo was releasing. They weren't really delaying them, they weren't pushing them, out far enough. They were just kind of rushing them. They just, nope, gotta meet that deadline, gotta meet it, and I think they've learned their lesson on that, because they've delayed a lot of sim updates lately to make sure that they get it exactly right. So, kudos to them on that. Alright, now let's move on to Flight Simulator 2024. So, obviously, this is going to be a massive improvement from what we're seeing from 2020, but that could also come with its own share of issues. But let's have some reassurance here, because it's not like this game is being completely rebuilt from the ground up, because obviously they're going to be reusing a lot of the same assets from Flight Simulator 2020 to 2024 and just, improving on them, making them better. So they don't really have to do anything from scratch, so that makes things a lot easier. So I'm not too worried about that, and it decreases the chance of any serious bugs, because they probably have ironed out some of them throughout 2020, but, adding on to things can also create new bugs, but it's not as bad as when you're developing something, from the ground up. Now, granted, I'm not a game developer, I could be wrong on that, but I don't know, it seems kind of reasonable to me. Now let's talk about another topic, and this one's kind of interesting, but yet, I'm just gonna be honest, this doesn't mean that the game can't release a little bit buggy, but it does give me slightly better reassurance, and that's regarding to how far the release date was from when they announced it. I'm sure a lot of you might remember or might not remember, but the release date for FS 2020 was actually announced about a month before the game came out. That is very rare for any AAA game. I don't think I've ever seen a AAA game do that. So I was kind of shocked by that. But also, I had questions about that. I'm like, that's a little weird that you would announce it that early, or that soon before it actually releases. And turns out my skepticism was right, because as I said previously in the beginning of the video, FS 2020 did not launch in the best state. Now with 2024, the release date was months ahead compared to 2020. I believe they had the Xbox Showcase back in June, I believe, and the release date was announced for November. So that also seems to be another example of Asobo possibly learning from their mistakes. So that's a good thing to know. No surprise launch like that. So I'm glad to see that. Also, another thing to keep in mind to be a little bit reassured is that Asobo has had 4 years of experience with Flight Simulator 2020, figuring out what works for them, what doesn't work, what's good for the community, what's not good for the community. And while 2020 was a rough start for them, I feel it's actually really prepared them for Flight Simulator 2024. It doesn't guarantee the smoothest launch possible. That's going to be perfect, but they have a lot of preparation leading up to this. And one last positive thing is the fact that Asobo is going to be relying and working with a lot of third-party developers. So, like when it comes to stuff like, say, the Flight Planner or Instant Replay, Asobo's not working on that in-house. They're actually getting help from other third-party developers to work on those specific features, which is a very good thing. So that means, let's say, the Flight Planner is a little bit buggy and the Instant Replay is a little bit buggy. That means Asobo doesn't have to worry about that and take time out of core sim features or focus more on core sim features while the Flight Planner or the Replay gets tossed to the side and they can't ever get to it. They can just call up those developers and say, hey, we're getting reports of bugs. Can you guys work on that? And when you're ready, we'll pump out an update. So this is a very good thing, and I hope Asobo keeps doing this and they just focus more so on the core sim, and I think that will just be a very reassuring thing for the community, and that things will be able to get fixed a lot faster, and it's less pressure on Asobo. Alright, now let's move into a little bit more of the negative side here. We talked about some things that could be reassuring that the game will launch in a polished state. Now let's look at some things that could potentially go wrong, and these are some concerning things, but again, none of this guarantees it's going to be completely broken at launch or anything like that. But it's just some things to think about. So let's talk about the fact that everything in this game, almost everything, almost all the assets are going to be streamed. So I understand why Asobo is doing this. They're doing this to, one, save on hard drive space and improve load times. But, the thing is, when it comes to all the data that they have, when it comes to the scenery, the planes, you can't fit all that on a hard drive, especially with the detail that they're doing with the scenery now. You just cannot fit all that on a hard drive. It's just not physically possible, at least not yet, but I'm sure there maybe will be a time in the future when that could be possible. Right now, that's just not the case. The reason why this could be a problem is because this game has become much more reliant on servers and your internet connection. And if any of those are having problems, that could potentially spell some serious issues for the sim. Now, I don't know how significant they could be. I don't know if it's going to be something that you notice all that much, but it is something to keep in mind. One of the main things Asobo has been talking about is that when it comes to your mainly marketplace add-ons for like planes, they didn't really say anything about third-party software outside the marketplace, but I'm sure it's the same thing to an extent. They're saying that it'll be able to migrate easily over to 2024 from 2020. I got this funny feeling that this is not going to go as smoothly as Asobo says it is. And that's not to say I'm saying Asobo is incompetent or anything like that and that they can't be trusted. That's not what I'm saying. I just got a feeling that this is going to be a little bit more of a problem than it's being touted as. I just don't see this going as smoothly as Asobo says it will be. I just don't believe it. I could be totally proven wrong, and I hope I am, because I have a decent amount, not as much as others do, but I just don't see this being a 100% flawless thing. I suspect to see on the forums that people are having a lot of trouble getting their 2020 planes over to 2024, or they even have problems that they crash the sim or something like that. I have a lot of skepticism on this, but I hope that I'm proven wrong on it. Alrighty guys, so that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know in those comments below, how do you think Flight Simulator 2024 is gonna be released? Do you think it's gonna be a bug-filled disaster in the likes of Cyberpunk or Battlefield 2042? Or is it gonna release very polished and no problems at all? I would love to know what you guys think, and let me know some things maybe I didn't discuss. What are some things that you might be worried about or reassured about? I love to hear them in the comments below. And until next time, guys, I will catch you in my next video. And be sure to leave a like and hit the subscribe button. And I will see you all soon. Peace out. Happy flying.